What is going on, guys? I hope you're all having an amazing morning. Personally, it's a little early for me. I'm pretty tired, but I'm going to try and keep the energy high because we have a lot to cover today. Now, you guys know me. I've raised well over seven figures across multiple NFT mints for multiple founders. I've got a great track record. And across my time in the space, I've taken everything that I've learned and put it into the sheet the best that I could. This still isn't everything because there's a lot more that goes into it. But this is a basic idea of the five-phase marketing framework that we use for our clients at the round table. And if you're thinking of starting an NFT project, this is going to be invaluable to you, right? So a couple things I want to cover just real quick. Also, I know this looks like a lot, but it's not. I'm going to go through it pretty easily and don't get overwhelmed, right? So first and foremost, a couple notes. The market's not great right now. Like that's just the reality of it. Projects are not selling out. Things that are selling out are just degen mints, ordinals, all of that stuff. So if you're coming into this thinking, oh, I'm gonna start a 10,000 NFT collection, art's gonna look like shit, but I'm gonna make millions of dollars, this video is not for you because that's not the case. Now, if you're actually serious about Web3 and you want to use the technology to build something cool, then this is the video for you, right? I'm not guaranteeing a minimum raise, but this should at least put you in a good position or give you an idea of where you need to go and hopefully launch and raise a lot of money once the market starts recovering a little bit. So, also realistic expectations when you're building in this market right now, unless you're a very hype project or you're buying bots, you're not going to be getting a ton of engagement. Even some of the biggest projects that I've seen, I've seen projects with 200,000 followers that are getting 100, 200 likes on their tweets because their engagement is organic. These projects that you see that have thousands upon thousands of interactions, mostly botted or they're forced through alpha bot engagement, which is fine, but it's not genuine engagement, right? Um, and also, right now, while the market conditions are bad, it doesn't mean you hold off and like wait. It's like, oh, we'll build when things recover because when things recover, it's going to be too late. You're going to be scrambling to get everything together and launch. Now is the time to build that foundation, right? So that way, when things do start recovering or you hit a wave, you can launch and hopefully do well. So, all right, let's get into this. So, first and foremost, we have the idea phase. This is phase one. So, it's just kind of everything's kind of a concept, an idea. I broke it down into three parts. So, you've got utility, feedback, and data. Let's go ahead and cover them. So, utility, you want to define a problem and your solution, right? Super simple. Define a problem in your niche, whether that's through, whether that's in Web3 itself, like Alphabot did with collaborations, or if you're integrating Web3 technology into your agency that helps like email marketing agencies, whatnot. So define the problem and your solution. How is Web3 technology going to come in and actually, improve it? Then you've got the Moscow method. Okay. Now, essentially, this is basically dividing your utility into must haves, should haves, could haves, and won't haves. So with utility, you want to focus on something that you can actually deliver on. You don't want to be making promises that you can't deliver on because that's just going to be bad for you. So you have must haves, which is utility that you can deliver on and you absolutely must have, like it completely relates to your project. Then you've got should haves. This is utility that it's like, yeah, you should probably have this if you're going to be launching a project of this type. And then you have could have. Now, this is kind of where like you can get a little more free. You can think of some cool ideas. Like maybe we have some meetups. We could have some in-person meetups, right? Or we could have this course. That's when you start putting things into could haves. And then you have won't haves. So you take a look at other project utility and you're like, that doesn't really apply to us. We won't have that, right? By separating these things into different categories, you can obviously prioritize a lot easier and make sure you actually deliver on your promises and don't mislead people. Then you've got your USP. Define your USP, which is your unique selling point. What makes you different than other projects? I've seen so many DAOs come in, so many copycat projects, and they're like, yeah, we want to raise seven figures. It's not going to happen. What makes you any different, right? Focus a lot on your USP. And then finally, you've got your MVP. So MVP is a minimum viable product. This is basically the most basic version of your utility that you can provide just kind of straight off the get-go. I'll give you an example. We were developing a software, and our MVP was just a super basic of version of the software. It's kind of like a proof of concept. It had like the basic functions. We got a couple of signups, and we're like, okay, so people are obviously interested. Now we can actually produce something like really good. Then you've got feedback. In your Discord, create a feedback channel. Build a form or something, create a feedback channel so people can give you feedback on your project. A lot of it's going to be shit, but a lot of it's going to be useful too. Then you've got ideal token holders only. You want to identify your ideal token holder. Who do you want in your community? Who do you want holding your NFT, right? And make sure that the feedback that you're collecting is from these ideal token holders, not just some random person who joined your Discord and is like, you should start a DAO, like that feedback can just go to the dumpster. It's not useful. Then you've got a 2 to 3 sentence elevator pitch. Now, if you're a Web2 company, make sure you create an elevator pitch for both Web3 people and people who don't really know who Web3 is. How are you going to explain it to them? Especially if you've already got like a Web2 user base, how are you going to explain this product to them simply? You don't want to give them a giant paragraph and be like, oh yeah, the blockchain, the back end, yeah, they don't care. 2 to 3 sentences, elevator pitch. What's the selling point? Pain points, selling point, etc. Then you want a 1-sentence elevator pitch. Basically want to break your idea down so it's as digestible as possible. Because I'm going to tell you a secret, attention spans in Web3 are non-existent. They don't exist. It's worse than a goldfish. It's like it's a speck of dust, right? It's not there. There is no attention span. So you need to be able to get their attention in 1 sentence. Now I'm going to kind of move faster because it's already been. This video is going to be valuable though. It's going to be fire. Anyways, 1-sentence elevator pitch. Next, we've got data. So you want to collect qualitative data and quantitative data. You want to collect data of all types. You want to see who's coming into your Discord. You want to see who's engaging with your posts, obviously. And you can do this using software like Typeform or Airtable. Typeform to collect user data. So that kind of goes back into the feedback that I touched on. You obviously want to use software like Typeform, and then you can use Airtable to kind of build out CRMs and stuff like that. And again, avoid irrelevant feedback. If it doesn't apply to your project, don't even take it into consideration. It doesn't matter. Next, we've got phase 2, which is your go-to-market approach. Now, this is broken down into 3 sections as well. You've got marketing, resources, and then acquisition and qualification. So first and foremost, marketing. You just want to put yourself in a good position. Purchase a good .com domain. .com domains are the best, in my opinion. Granted, with Web3, you can also do things like .io, just because that's kind of like the Web3 shtick, right? And then you want to develop landing pages and funnels. Personally, I'm going to be 100% honest. I'm a very big fan of email sequences in Web3. So with a lot of our clients, what we did is, we have an email pop-up and they can enter for a chance to win whitelist. And we send out weekly newsletters, basically talking about the development of the project and stuff like that. Web2 funnels work in Web3. It's just, I don't know where that mindset went. It's like gone. But yeah, funnels work. Building an email list is crucial, especially if you're trying to build a long-term brand, right? You also want to develop a social media strategy and you want to position yourself correctly. You want to know how often you're going to be posting. Now, for example, if you're an art collection, you only want to maybe be posting a couple times a week. You don't want to be flooding the timeline with sneak peeks, right? No one cares. But if you're more of like a utility-based collection, you could, write threads based on the utility. You could write threads based on the market. You can tweet about the utility. You can drop trailers. You have a lot more freedom to post frequently. Whereas with art, it takes a lot more time to produce. It takes a lot more time to make something quality. So it's okay if you don't post as frequently. I see a lot of people get hung up on like, oh, we have to post every 2 days. Like, no, you fucking don't. Like, it's not that big of a deal. Quality over quantity especially applies in Web3. So, and then you want to implement a good Discord retention strategy. I'm going to touch on this a little bit, but Discord is absolutely crucial. I can't even tell you how many clients I've worked with that have a great front end, especially on the Twitter side of things. They've got great positioning, great branding. And then in the Discord, they're not there. Like, they're not active. There's no one engaging with the community. They don't want to hire out. They don't want to bring on community managers. And then when it comes to mint day, they're like, why is no one minting? You didn't build a community. You didn't give anything for anyone to like be passionate about, So Discord retention, you got to keep them there. It's one thing to get them there, but you have to keep them there, right? Let me make sure. Okay, I didn't stop my recording. Cool. Next, resources. Lay out all resources at your disposal. You want to take advantage of high leverage opportunities. Now, this could be anything from like VC funding. Maybe you've got someone on your team with a very large social following. Maybe you've got connections to larger corporations, like big brands that you can leverage for the NFT project. You want to create a list of all of those high leverage opportunities that you have and try to explore options with those. Next, you want to explore options for devs, marketers, artists, etc., if you don't already have those things. Acquisition. Create two separate acquisition pipelines. So you have team acquisition pipelines and member acquisition pipelines. Now, this kind of goes into the member, the build ICP and qualification process. You want to identify, again, your ideal token holder, your ideal customer profile. Who are you trying to attract to your project? And you want to build an acquisition pipeline around that. So that kind of goes into the qualification process a little bit. And then with team members, underrated, but also very important. Who do you want on your team? Like, think about that. If you don't already have a team together, you need to think about who you want being on your team and then also build a qualification process around that. You can use software like Funnelytics to track KPIs and stuff. Personally, I've done that a couple times. It's pretty helpful just to have the data. Next, we've got phase 3, which is hype and anticipation. You're going to want to look at market trends. You're going to want to focus on narrative and copywriting, and then also mystery. Mystery is a weird one, but I'll elaborate. So market trends. You want to identify market trends to determine launch times. Obviously, you're not going to launch right now because the market is shit. So use this time to build a foundation. Now, you can also identify market trends to adjust your strategy and then also adjust your copywriting. For example, a lot of the meta a long time ago when like NFT projects were still first launching was like these big, long paragraph Twitter posts. Like it didn't really matter because there was so much hype. But now with a lot of hype projects, you see like these 1-2 sentence posts, right? Like just super basic. It's like in the year 2929, like blah blah blah, and it's like some super basic like lore stuff. That's what I'm talking about. Like it changes constantly, and sometimes there's like anime phases. Right now we're in this like whole ordinals thing, so maybe you want to launch an ordinals project. That's just something to consider. Next, you want to build brand narrative through obviously your large network connections. So if you have someone like a celebrity that has like a super large following, you want to build your brand through that. And then also large publications, getting your project published on news sites, which is something that we personally do at our agency. So that's not something you have to worry about. And then you also want to build project narrative through lore or project background. Now, lore would be best for like profile picture collections or gaming collections, that type of stuff, because lore is important there. And project background, I mean like background on the team. How did the project start? How did the team get together? What's the team's background? Like you want to build a brand identity, right? Next, we've got mystery. You want to hint at, but don't fully reveal the utility. Don't just be like, here's what we're offering, because then it's like people get bored. You want to kind of dangle the carrot a little bit, keep them coming. But you also have to balance the line between being transparent and too vague to where it's like, are these guys rugging us? So it's a delicate line that you have to balance, but you want to keep people guessing. You want to keep people aroused by gamifying the experience. Maybe you like do some kind of treasure hunt where it's someone solves a riddle and like a piece of your roadmap is unlocked or whatever. It's just straight off on my head an idea. Next, we got phase 4, which is scarcity and Fomo. So that's broken down into exclusivity, and social proof. So exclusivity, it doesn't work for every project, but I think it's incredibly important and underrated, especially now. You want to develop an application process for access. And this is especially effective if you've already got like a user base or you've already done, you've built hype and anticipation, you've built a community on Discord. People are going to be more inclined to want to buy your project. And then you can drive that exclusivity by adding an application process. You want to reward loyal and active members with special perks or benefits. When people get a whitelist, you want to announce it in the Discord, like have an automated thing, like congrats this person, you've got whitelist. It's gonna drive people nuts. And then you've got social proof. Leverage those large connections I was talking about, whether that's a brand or an influencer. Leverage those to make announcements. And then you also want to take screenshots from the community and use that as promo material. I don't know why projects don't do this. It's like, you have in the Discord, someone's like, man, this is the best project I've ever been a part of, or this is the best community I've ever been a part of. And the founder's just like, thanks. use it. Like build a folder on Google Drive of all of those things that you get in your Discord and make a fucking video trailer out of that shit, you know? Like use it as promo material. Obviously that is incredible social proof. Like you want people excited. Um, Next we've got phase 5, which is launch. This one's a lot more simple. You want support systems and AMAs, and then also security and efficiency. Support systems. You want to have as many team members on deck come mint day. You want to have support in check, right? You want to have a launch day AMA, throughout the launch in case anybody has any issues. You're right there talking to them. It also just gets more people to convert because you're there with them. You're not just like, I'm going to bed, mint as many as you can, right? And then you've got a pre-launch team meeting the day before and before you start the AMA. Have a team meeting. Make sure everyone is on the same page, right? Next, we've got security. Double check with the dev and the contract. Make sure the contract's working fine and make sure the Discord is secure. You want to lock down the Discord. Usually, this is kind of hit or miss. So you'll want to kind of read your community a little bit. If they're like fudding and you lock down the Discord, it doesn't look great. But that's just probably something you're going to have to do regardless, especially if there's a lot of hype. And then make sure as many team members as possible are online, right? Now, before I finish up, there's a project legal checklist down here. This is not something that projects consider, but it's something that you have to take care of. You want to set up a legal identity for taxes, whether that's, as an LLC or an S corp. That's just the US. There are other tax identities in different countries, obviously. You want to have operating agreements. If you're working with multiple partners, you want to have partnership agreements. You want to define team roles very, very clearly. And then we have actually a tokenomics calculator to track your spend and your raise. So you can say you tell an artist, we'll give you 20%. You can put that into the calculator, and it'll basically, once you put in all of those expenses and those costs, and then your supply, your mint price, the current price of ETH, it'll kind of give you a very good idea of how much you're actually going to raise. So you can decide from that if it's going to be enough for you to pursue the vision. Now, final thing I wanted to cover. Promise I'm not trying to make this too long. 17 minutes. We're moving fast. Okay. So a marketing funnel. You've heard of them. They're marketing funnels. They're everywhere. This is a super basic one that I ripped off Google, right? Awareness, consideration, conversion, and loyalty. Now, I ripped this from Google because it was the first one I saw, but I think I can paint a pretty good picture for you guys. So in terms of awareness, this is obviously someone goes from unaware of your project to aware. Oh, okay. This project's here. Let me make a mental note. Now, awareness is going to come from multiple things. Internally, it's going to come from collaborations, like the Discord collaborations on the back end, AlphaBot giveaways, et cetera, et cetera. And then it's also going to come from collaborations on Twitter if you have people posting your project, like doing giveaways. And then obviously there's your organic reach, or organic traffic. That probably won't be too much straight off the get-go. And then AMAs. If you're doing AMAs with other projects, people go to your Twitter page, influencers, paid shills. I wouldn't recommend it, but influencers as well. And then ads. If you're like a SaaS Web3 project, ads are actually pretty effective from what I've seen. I haven't done it too much with clients, to be honest. So if you're developing Web3 SaaS and you're trying to become a client and test out ads with me, I'll cover the cost. Just let me know because I'm curious. Anyways, the funnel kind of works very, very much like this, right? So on the front end of things, you do a Twitter collab, organic reach, or you have an AMA, which I prefer Spaces over Discord. Discord doesn't work anymore. You have like a Twitter space. So they're aware of your project. They visit your Twitter. Then they go to your website, learn a little bit more. Then they go to your Discord. And that's when you want to implement a retention strategy. Like I said, it's one thing to get them there. And this is something that a lot of clients, like when I first started my agency, this is something that they didn't get, and it caused a lot of problems for me. There's a lot of moving pieces of an NFT project. Like I can get the traffic there, but you need to know how to keep them there. You need to know how to keep people engaged. Like they're not just going to wait in your Discord. There's hundreds of projects launching every day. So you need to know how to keep them there. And then next, you want to know how to make them love it so that they convert into a customer, which is going to take us into consideration. So this kind of builds into that hype and anticipation portion of the framework. And then you want to continue to build community, and you want to provide value before you even launch. Now, value doesn't mean you have to be giving them money or like you have to deliver on utility straight away. Value can be the community itself, but you want to provide people a reason to stay. If you joined the Discord and there was nothing going on in there and you didn't know too much about the project yet, would you stay? No. No. It doesn't matter how cool your project is. Oh, we're building real estate. Like, they don't give a shit, right? Next, we've got conversion. Now, this one's obviously the next step in our funnel. This is where the FOMO tactics come in. This one's pretty important because this is what is going to push people to buy. Now, this isn't rocket science. This is something that's been around for a very long time, but this is where you integrate those FOMO tactics. A lot of those marketing tactics, like, if you have a big brand or influencer backing you, this is where, when it gets close to launch, like, they start promoting it, they start putting stuff out, you start getting mysterious, like accepting last people, a lot of these tactics. Obviously, it's dependent on your project and the resources you have available, but there's definitely something that you guys can do. And then I have smooth launch right here because I don't know how this still happens, but so many NFT projects still fuck up their mint and then they can't mint out because they messed up the contract or something. Yeah, make sure your shit's good. I don't know. Now, a couple things to consider are email marketing sequences, which can ramp up closer to launch. Supply shocks, I wouldn't recommend this unless you're having a hard time selling out. I wouldn't recommend it. Influencer shills, if you have a big influencer backing you, that's part of the project, that's great. Paid influencer shills, not great. Announcements, etc. Now, loyalty. This is where people are going to hold your project. This is important, or people are going to hold on to the NFT. Like, you don't want to just, mint and then be like at a 0 ETH floor, right? So brand loyalty. This is where brand building comes into it. Community, delivery of utility. Now, these are very important. Obviously, having a strong brand identity, people can relate to that. That's why people relate to brands in the first place. Like fucking Nike, bro. People are athletes. They see the brand image, they associate it with status, right? It's the same way with designer brands, right? I'm personally not a designer person, but some people love designer because it gives them that status. That's what you want with your brand. Community, give people a place to call home. Like, more than just like a couple crappy Discord mini games. Like, give them a place that they love to show up every day, right? And then finally, delivery of utility. It shouldn't take 6 months after launch for you to deliver on the first thing. I'm sorry, but if that's going to be the case, you shouldn't be starting an NFT project. A great example of this would be Pudgy Penguins. They've nailed the brand building. They've got an incredibly passionate community, and they're still delivering. Even, in the crappy market, they just launched those toys. They're constantly delivering on utility, so they've nailed it. But whew, that was a long 22-minute video. I hope you guys made it through all of that. If you're still here, congratulations, because you're actually serious about starting an NFT project. But yeah, that's pretty much all I've got for you. Obviously, there's a lot more that goes into it, but this is a pretty smooth idea of how we operate. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know. If you're trying to start a Web3 project of your own, feel free to shoot me a DM and, we'll get that sorted. You do have to have, I wouldn't say you have to have a marketing budget, but depending on the client, we may have to take payment up front. But if you have a really good idea and you have resources, we might be able to take you on for free. So, yeah, that's everything. I hope you guys have a good day, and I'll see you later.